Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
A great conversation with Roger Bennett. If you listen to this Reasonably Irreverent podcast, you know that most of my personal interviews are long form. Well, Roger Bennett has a book out called Reborn in the USA, and the man who is half of the Men in Blazers duo is a very popular and very, very in-demand guy. So actually, I was only supposed to get 10 minutes with him, but I got 15 instead, and we packed a lot in, and he's just a fun guy. And if you've developed into a soccer fan over the last 10 years, as I have, probably a big part of your increased enjoyment is the comedy stylings of he and his friend Michael Davies, who produced originally the Men in Blazers podcast. It turned into a TV show on NBCSN. And the thing about it is, it's such a British show, from the Premier League highlights that they do, to the backdrop, to the pies that they eat at the end, the humor, everything else. And what is amazing is that Roger Bennett's book is Reborn in the USA, and it's all about the fact that a young man who grew up in Liverpool under circumstances he didn't very much like, in a time when Liverpool was rather a drab place, dreamed of coming to America and pop culture and all the things that actually are infused in the Men in Blazers show as well. And this book is absolutely a fantastic ride, and it sort of ends up with him becoming an American citizen, which he is now, became an American citizen in 2018, and his path to there, and much of it focusing on a couple of years of his teenage life when he came to America for the first time and discovered that he indeed liked all the things American that he had dreamed about. And it's a very, very fascinating coming-of-age story, and it's a very, very fascinating and enjoyable and, of course, funny conversation that we have next with Roger Bennett about his book, Reborn in the USA.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Hey Kansas City, Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing, back for another beautiful springtime in Kansas City. We are proud to announce our renewed partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City. Starting in 2024, a portion of every job sold will be donated to a cause close to my heart. I was a big, and I encourage you to volunteer. And if you hire us for service on your residential or commercial roof, you'll know that a portion of the profits will go to a great cause. So call us at 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
We're here at the 23rd Street Brewery with Matt Llewellyn. And Matt, basketball's over, football's still a few months away, but there's always fun to be had at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Absolutely. We've always got something going on here. The games are always going on. It's a great place to come enjoy everything out on the patio. Beautiful scenery out there. Great beer. I've got a great brewer, great food. It's always fun here at the brewery.
And the atmosphere is great and friendly and warm, too.
We always want to make sure you're a lot happier when you leave than you were when you came in.
Always fun here at the 23rd Street Brewery at 23rd and Castle. Make sure to come by when you're in Lawrence. If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. It's a fantastic pleasure to welcome to the podcast Roger Bennett. He is the author of the now #1 New York Times hardcover nonfiction bestseller Reborn in the USA, An Englishman's Love Letter to His Chosen Home. It is a fantastic book. It is an unbelievably fun read. I don't have much time in my life, and I still gobbled it up in just a few days. And we also, in at least one way, are kindred spirits in the fact that we both have a passion for the movie Diner. And actually, as we speak, when we're taping this, today is Fenwick's birthday, Kevin Bacon.
Good Lord, what a remarkable American he is. Danny, it's wonderful to be with you. Yes, I used to watch Diner and just want that kind of fraternity, that kind of friendship, that kind of repartee. Wanted to be a raconteur. It was one of many, many American television shows, movies, books, bands, sports teams. God love the Chicago Bears, Run DMC, John Hughes movies, Tracy Chapman, that illuminated my life as a kid growing up in Liverpool in the 1980s, a great city, but one that was in terrible economic, political decline as the north of England went to rot in the 1980s. The coal pits shut, the steel mills, the cotton mills. If you've seen Billy Elliot, you kind of get the picture.
Right.
of what life was like. It was very dark, and I managed to survive by inhaling everything American. It was a light in the darkness, told me life could be lived with courage, with possibility, with different sets of wonder. And really, I told myself I was an American trapped in an English boy's body. And the book is the story of how I went from that, the American idea that's so powerful around the world, to making that true by becoming an American. And it's really a love letter to that. I think a love letter our nation probably needs right now, of just how remarkable a role the nation plays in the imaginations of the world.
The coronavirus obviously has impacted us in so many negative ways, and still does to right now. But sometimes it creates the time and the opportunity and perhaps the inspiration to do something you might otherwise not have done. Is that the case as far as this project is concerned?
I cover sports, and I live in New York. And at the beginning of the pandemic, the city that I loved, as a kid, I painted on my bedroom wall a crude manifestation of the Manhattan skyline. I ended up moving here to that very city. So to see that city I love overwhelmed by the pandemic as it was at the outset, it was terribly dark. It was terribly challenging. And when the present is one of fear and chaos, I think it's a natural human emotion to revert to joyous times in the past. And when sport stopped, the whole structure of my life somewhat fell apart. And I filled it by going through every enchanted wonder: Miami Vice, Cheers, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Heart to Heart, Pretty in Pink, and exploring the impact each had on my life, my identity, how I saw myself, how I saw the world. And I wanted to retrace my steps, almost like the breadcrumbs through an enchanted forest, to paint a picture for Americans of how you can end up from being a Liverpool kid who dreamt of America to a courtroom in 2018 with 162 fellow newly minted Americans saying the oath of allegiance, the greatest day of my life. And when you speak to these human beings from 42 different countries, and we shared our stories, and you realize these people had survived civil wars, famine, conflicts, worse. Many had walked huge distances to be there. And the one thing we shared was the idea of America. It had given all of us in different ways, when we needed it, courage, confidence, hope, joy, a sense of possibility. It's the most powerful gift in the world. And ultimately, this book is holding up for Americans, many of whom were born here, and I think take it all a bit for granted, what the idea of America, how powerful it is, how powerful it can be, how powerful it was for me and millions around the world.
When you went through this period and reading Rolling Stone magazine and inculcating all of these particular influences, the music and everything that you mentioned, eventually that would lead to the fact that you would meet your American twin in Liverpool, and then eventually would make a trip to Chicago. Those couple of years of your life are a keynote and make up much of this book, and very impactful to you. But I was wondering, go through that period right there where you met that American and then went and visited him in Chicago, and your initial impressions of the country that you had dreamed about so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an insane story. My great-grandfather left Ukraine. He was a butcher, headed to Chicago, in his mind, the hog capital of the world, and he made a fatal mistake. When the boat docked in Liverpool to refuel, he saw the one tall building on the Liverpool skyline and got off thinking he was in New York, and ended up stranding us in northwest England. So when things were dark, my grandfather, his son, who I was very close with, he'd always say to me, we should have been there. We should have been in America. So I did believe like my destiny was America. And then just randomly, by chance one day, when I was at the height of my love of all things American, I met a Chicagoan who'd come to Liverpool to visit a distant cousin. And, I became tight friends with him. I showed him my world. I took him to Everton Football Club. I took him to see everything that the city had to offer. And we became pen pals. We wrote for a year through the Chicago Bears Super Bowl winning year. And at the end of that year, he invited me to spend the summer at his home in the North Shore of Chicago, where John Hughes shot his movies. Shout out to Glencoe. And it was the greatest summer of my life. When Ferris Bueller came out, it seemed like a documentary of my time there, sitting in the Chicago Cubs bleachers, going to the Art Institute, inhaling deep dish pizza, ribs, malted milkshakes. And the most dominant experience was meeting the Chicago Bears. I went to meet them late at night when they arrived back from a game at 4 a.m. in the morning at O'Hare Airport. And I met my heroes. I met Walter Payton, the legend, the sweetest man in the world. And I met William Refrigerator Perry, who was the face of the team, Carnival's larger-than-life figure. And he put his arm around me. 15-year-old me whispered into my ear, "Dream big dreams, kid." I did. You can too. And that's the kind of cliche now. I work in sports. I know all athletes throw out to kids they want to get away from. But back then, it sounded to me as if the fridge himself was telling me to move to America. So in many ways, it's William Refrigerator Perry who changed my life.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Did you experience hail damage last year and never got the work done? Most insurance companies only give you a year to get the roof fixed. And if you don't get it done, you could possibly not be compensated in full for the replacement of your roof. If you've been procrastinating getting that damaged roof taken care of, give us a call at 913-257-5426. And we'll send out an expert to help you through the process. We're never pushy, we're just here to help. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Whittle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one, mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
We can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business on Kansas City's #1 rated podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyClinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
At the end of that trip, you went on a bit of a binge buy. And a local note here, you were buying pennants, and the guy in the store was wondering why you were buying pennants of competing and rival teams like the White Sox and Cubs, including Kansas State and Kansas in this area. So you're just buying everything in sight to put on your wall, right?
Yeah, and when people see my bedroom, when Americans see my bedroom, my child bedroom, their first instinct is like, how can you have Chicago White Sox and Chicago Cubs and St. Louis Cardinals and Kansas State? And it's just from afar. It all just screamed one thing to me, and that was just America and courage, and I loved it all. And that's how I lived until I made good. I listened to Run DMC. Their fire hose mouths saying, make your dreams come true with your words, which I did. I wanted to back up my words, not just talk about America, but live here. I saw Tracy Chapman. She really influenced my life with her message of stoicism and willingness to make big changes and get out if you didn't like your situation. And I moved here at the earliest opportunity, and I have all of these individual pieces from Don Johnson in Miami Vice, just the singular self-confidence, through to Molly Ringwald in every John Hughes movie. All of them together, just like every sports team, just gave me the courage to act and not just be a person who talked, and to make this dream come true.
You touched on it earlier. You have written and wrote in this and spoken about in interviews that you consider becoming an American citizen the greatest achievement of your life. That happened in 2018. Just describe again the feelings that brought out in you.
My great-grandfather had dreamt of moving to America. My grandfather flew over here at every single opportunity. In the days before direct flights, you get on a flight that would land in Iceland and Greenland and somewhere off Canada to refuel. And I brought in my pocket, to become an American, I brought his wedding ring. I brought the plastic Statue of Liberty that he had on his mantelpiece that he'd often stare at in his greatest ruminations. I brought a William Refrigerator Perry rookie card. I brought pieces of each